During the countdown.
Hello and welcome to Journey Lines, the podcast answering the question, how did they get here? I am so excited because today the person who taught me about Journey Lines is on the podcast. And when I asked for permission to start this, she said, Journey Lines is the fucking best, dude. When can I be on it? So with that, I am so excited to introduce Kelli Dragovich. Kelli, how are you today?
So happy to be here, my friend. We've known each other, almost 10 years now. And I've been looking forward to this. I've been listening to your pod. It's been great. And I'm here with my 95-pound Bernese mountain dog at my feet in a tiny space. So
perfect. I've got my 85-pound golden doodle right behind him. And 10 years. And I was surprised at some of your journey line plottings. So I'm super excited to dive in. But before we do, what's going on today? Personally, professionally, holistically, what's taking up your time?
Yeah, no, everything's great. I'm sure we'll talk about it. I recently I like to call it like my third chapter, maybe. I don't know how many there'll be, but one just turned. It could be any chapter you pick. But I just left Pendo full-time August 1st. So that will mark about 24, almost 25 years straight of being in Bay Area-based tech companies and HR leadership roles. So I am like loving life. I'm waking up between 7 and 7:20 every day, having coffee. I have leaned into kind of coaching, mentoring, advising. So I have a select group of clients I work with, usually mid to senior level HR business leaders. I love it, just sharing all the scars, all the things, working with them. I get a lot of energy from that. And what else? The kids are going back to school tomorrow. I have twin boys. They're almost 14, so they're starting 8th grade and took up hot yoga.
I'm sorry, what? That last one is actually the most surprising. For those who don't know,
yoga.
Kelli has a background in boxing and convinced several teams to go boxing. So yoga, didn't know you were a stretching kind of gal.
Yes, lots of years of making the HR teams box. And, part of the next chapter is moving from, I like to say, beating up the body to preserving it. So I feel like at this age, we should start to do a little bit of both.
So excited.
Yes.
All right, pal. Well, let's dive into your journey line. I've got it up on the screen. For our listeners, click on the link below. You can check it out. It's also the cover art. So we start with a successful and loving dysfunctional upbringing. We both have met each other's moms, which is fun. But sure, let's dive in. Let's talk about your childhood and upbringing.
Yeah, look, I'm Bay Area, born and bred. I live in St. Carlos still here on the peninsula. They call me a rare native. So, for those of you who know the Bay Area well, we grow up privileged most of the time. We grow up with everything you need, going to good schools, right? I went to great schools, public and private, played sports, had all the resources and a loving family that, was big on being together, responsibility, but every family has their stuff. And my parents had a really tough upbringing, both of them, dysfunctional parents, lots of alcoholism, lots of just bad things that kind of breed, trauma in different ways, communication challenges. And they did a great, I'm very close, we were very close. But I think there was, some dysfunction as far as communication goes, working through emotional issues, right? Being vulnerable, digging into feelings, if you will. I was really close with my grandma, and my mom and her had a really tough relationship ever since, my mom was 17. And so I was in the middle of that a lot. So it's, I'm just being really transparent. There's, a lot of wonderful things. And we again, grew up privileged, grew up very successful, high achiever, academics, athletics, but you always have to dig into kind of what's going on in the background, and it influences who you are later and what you value. So that's why I call it successful and loving and a bit dysfunctional.
Yeah, totally. It's as soon as you said like communication challenges and kind of being in the middle, I was like, Kelli, really? Because it's so interesting because to your point, like how you have grown your career so thoughtfully with communication being such a center point.
Yes, I Yes, as you know, I use journey lines a lot, and I still use them to this day. And what's great about journey lines is you can dye them any color you want, right? Like an Easter egg. You can put any flavor on them. And a lot of times I do this with teams and I have them plot their journey lines in the way they want, but they talk about their experiences in light of how they show up at work and why they do the things they do and how they behave and what triggers them. And for me, a lot of that was a need for harmony, a need for authentic communication and squashing things when they're, molehills, not mountains. And that drives a lot of how I've really worked the last 25 years.
Incredible. So with that baseline, intensity, responsibility, humor, and loyalty to your people, women after my own heart. I'm hilarious, obviously. And side story, you were the person who once told me that sometimes humor can distract from your messaging. And it was really helpful in my communication and the presence that I show. Similarly, that's how I cover up, all the things. So I'm curious about, this is a little bit higher spot on your journey. We kind of start on the upswing. What does this mean?
Yeah, look, I think growing up, I'm the person that still has friends from middle school and elementary school and high school and college. In fact, a group of us are going to Palm Springs the day after tomorrow together. And I think I just say that because the values that have been instilled in me, right? Sometimes it's overly loyal, but I take this into work and personal. That's just how I am. It's like when you say you're going to show up, you show up. When you say you're going to be on time, you be on time. When you say you're going to be there for someone, you be there for someone. And I think for me that carries on to my family. Again, it carries on to work. It's just what I learned is that you achieve, you do what you're going to say, you're there for your family, even if you don't sometimes want to be. You get things done, you execute. I mean, we were raised to move forward, right? You didn't nap in our house. You didn't play video games all day long. Like we were working when we were 14. And so that I think ethic for me was expected and instilled into me. And I think I'm learning now in this new chapter that sometimes that's hard too, because I have to like schedule in time to relax. Like you're not doing anything from 12 to 2. You're going to read some, like fiction smut. I don't know what you do out there, but I have to like retrain. And so, like I said, there's two sides to every coin. And I've always had perspective. I always love to surround myself with people that enjoy life, that don't take themselves too seriously, that laugh a ton, that are silly. Like I'm not going to go to book clubs on a Friday night and ponder. Like I like to enjoy, the silly, lighter things in life, probably because of the intensity of how I've grown up and worked and all these things since I was really young. So I think that humor for me is just kind of finding the joy and the perspective. And I think laughing solves a lot of things, not to be confused with, being silly or a little off the chain at work, very different things. But I found the best way to connect with people on a human level is laughter a lot of the times.
So strong agree. I feel like there's a levity that, especially in people operations roles, that we can bring to conversations or to instances that like reminds everyone, hey, just a moment, take a breath. It's a job, but let's have a little bit of perspective outside of this. I love that.
Yeah.
So what was your first job when you were 14?
Oh my gosh. So I worked at a coffee shop. And I don't think I was supposed to be working there. Like, it wasn't illegal or something.
Yeah, I think you were supposed to fill out a lot of paperwork that I'm sure you did not.
Yeah, so I worked at the coffee shop. I was 14. I remember it was in the summer, and I don't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? So that was kind of like the first job. But the first job, I worked at Baskin and Robbins. And I mean, HR from the beginning. I was recruiting all my friends. I had two of my friends working in there. We still call it BR. And I remember I was 15 years old and they made me a shift lead at 15. And so I'm like telling all these 30-year-olds, hey, we need some chocolate, go in the back, doing this. It was really awkward. But I guess the leadership thing started early. And I was like, Pam, I don't mean to tell you what to do. I know you're about 15 years older, but we need to get out of here. I got to go to school tomorrow. So let's wrap it up and I'll do the floors and you do this. And I was just kind of organizing people. We had a good time. So that Baskin Robbins, I guess, is theoretically my first job.
Pam, I got homeroom at 7:30 a.m. Get the chocolate. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love
Close
it.
sign early, throw it on 10 minutes before close, turn the thing. Let's go.
All right. Well, after your life and God, I would love to see you in customer service roles. What perfection.
Yeah. And I didn't like the hat, the visor, and I lied once, left it in the car, said I lost it. She's like, I'll give you a new one. The new one looks worse than the one that's broken in. So then I had to go it was a whole thing.
God, you in a polyester uniform. What a delight. But eventually you move on from, scooping ice cream and telling Pam about homeroom. And in 2000, .com bubble kind of pops, super great time. Yeah. You put the despair in finding a job in 2000 with no experience.
Yes.
You had experience. It was just different.
It was just different, but that period was burned into my brain. Like I was pre-med in college for 2 years, so I'm kind of like a science data geek and until organic chemistry when I almost, I think, died and switched to, business and psychology, and I loved it. And I knew initially junior year I wanted to do something that mixed an appropriate mix, which I didn't know what that meant between business and people together. And my professor introduced me to this very marble mouth term that I was like, I don't even know what that is, called industrial organizational psychology. And then I was like, can you please just tell me what that is in like plain English? And when she said that, I said, I want to do that. That's exactly what I want to do. So I went to grad school right out of undergrad for that, worked and went to school with a lot of folks that were already working in HR, which was great because then we talked about different things. And I graduated in 2000 from grad school, came back up in 2002, actually. And then that's when it all kind of blew up. So I was living at home, again, back to the achiever, back to the stuff, right? We're going to get a job. And I was just hitting the ground hard. I remember LinkedIn. I was talking to everyone I could talk to. I was asking to buy people lunch. I grinded myself. And then just kind of burn out. You know what I mean? Hit a wall on that. And I remember I said, I'm done. I turned the computer off and I think I left town or something like that with a friend. I was like, I'm done. I just
taking a weekend.
Yeah. And that weekend Intuit called to offer me a position, which is so funny. And I remember this day my mom's like, she'll take it. I'm like, okay, don't do that ever again. So,
Mom.
So I tell that story because to this day, I will never not reply to a LinkedIn message to me. I've had multiple people in undergrad, ask for 10 minutes. I tell them, call my cell. I remember how that felt when you're working your ass off. And I still hear it. Like they tell me I can't get the job. I don't have experience. How am I supposed to get experience if I can't get the job? And it's just this like never ending, chicken or egg situation. And it's always impacted me. So if kids want to get out there and work hard, I give them my time and I'll never forget those days.
For sure. And I think we're seeing a lot of that recently, like coming off of the pandemic. There's been some super fun financial shakeups in the startup world. And we're seeing a lot of people who are out of work for a long time, can't get that first job.
That's right.
Do you, like, reflecting on this time in your life, do you have some, like, I don't know, broad swaths of advice for maybe some folks who are just hitting that wall?
Yes, we talk about it a lot on, our podcast, Kim, HR Heretics. And this time, the last 3 years have been really hard. And again, I will help anybody who asks. I consider myself a connector in that realm. And so the advice is not to ask people to find you jobs or do you favors. The advice is to ask people to connect you with other people and also ask if you can help them. So I always say, listen, I'm going to connect you with 5 great HR people. I want you to get two to 4 other connections from each of them. And the second piece of advice I think we talked about on an episode at some point is to start that community early. I have a very simple Google sheet that I should probably move to some kind of online situation, but it's like
No, keep it
2000.
scrappy.
Yeah, I started it when I was 25, and it's 2,000 of my best friends. And these are like 2,000 people organized: exec search, exec consulting, HR leaders, business leaders, and they're people that I don't just wait to talk to when I need something or whatnot. I actually check in with them. I ask what's going on. You put energy out in the universe and it comes back. So I think a lot of people wait till either they need something or they're stuck, and that's the biggest mistake.
Oh, strong agree. I feel like that relationship building, even having you as a mentor early in my career, was something I didn't value enough. And like, sure enough, that bit me in the butt. And now I'm spending a whole lot of time going back through and rebuilding those relationships and reaching out, not just to ask for help, but also, how can I support you? How can I celebrate you?
Yeah. You do it
Amazing.
well. You do it well.
Oh, too kind. This is about you. Uh, so you, thanks to mom, you land the job with Intuit, or you accept the job with Intuit.
Thanks, Mom. $55,000 a year starting rate. No room for negotiation. I'm like, did you sign the contract too over the phone? Like, where are we at here?
You get it? Are my benefits selected? Awesome.
Yeah. What are we doing here? So that was wonderful. And then I kind of ache in that on the journey line to the 24 years, so to speak, in tech, marked by a wonderful tornado of joy and, heartbreak and all the things. I mean, I get emotional if I even think about the journeys and the rides and, through the Intuits and the Yahoos and the GitHubs and the Lookers and the Hireds and like, it's surreal to me. And I'm so grateful for all those experiences, and those have helped me through, but it's been such a ride going through public and private tech in the last 24 years, and the people you meet, the people you help, the people you see grow, like you and others, from when they were babies, so to speak. So that was a lot. I'm happy to dig into anything, but it took a lot out of me. I got married in that time to my first marriage. We were like 25 years old. So we met when we were babies at 23. Had our twin boys in 2011, which was like at the height of my craziness. I think I was at Nook and then GitHub, and they were little, and I was commuting to San Francisco from the peninsula 12 hours a day. And I kind of said, this isn't fair. Like, why does all this hit when you're 32? You got kind of everything hits at once, and then it hopefully stops. But lots of stressors at once at a certain point in your life. And that was really difficult. And I just thank God at that time, my wife at the time, could stay home, which takes me to a whole nother, topic of being empathetic to parents, especially working parents, single working parents. I still can't sometimes wrap my head around how difficult that is.
And I don't think it's something I appreciated as an HR partner. Like, I still don't have kids, but now as an older woman, a lot of my friends do. And what a journey. Like, what a fucking superhero a single parent has to be to work.
I don't even know how to comprehend it, Kim. Like we were, one parent was able to stay at home, rare. One parent worked in tech in the most flexible environment you could have. I can't imagine a single parent in a non-flexible environment. And we should do more. So that's a big thing over the years that for me has come true. So,
and I'll say it's something that you lived. I remember when we worked together, the advocacy you did in parental programs, whether it was setting up a Slack group with subject matter experts. I think there was like an adoption with Karsten. I think you were twins. Somebody had a sleep training methodology, and it was just a place for new parents to exist in a work environment.
Yeah. And just the fear that comes with that. I mean, one of my clients I coached the other week, I mean, she called me and she, was about to get a new job offer at a new company, and they don't know she's pregnant. She's terrified to talk about that, and we talked about Karsten, who got the phone call. We have your baby for adoption. You have to leave work for 4 months. It's like, Go
like
right
now.
Go. We'll figure it out. I mean, those are things that they imprint on you. And I think, anyway, that's hit me pretty hard over the years.
I love it. I love that high point. Your family was always really welcoming. I have constantly tried to replicate Julie's tacos for years.
Yeah.
Can't do it. But truly,
Yeah.
I think you bring something to the people operations space to really like forming those connections in those high stress environments, because tech is not always the easiest place to exist. Which maybe you experience because you kind of dip down. And frankly, the hired logo below the line of neutrality was wild to me. I think to your point, like I've seen you do a journey line before, which was different. And of course, time changes and reflections changes. But, that time was so impactful and influential and lovely for me. How could it have been low for anyone else?
Yeah. It was hard for me because if I could cut up these logos, right, they would be each top and bottom.
Totally.
So maybe I should
very
have done
much
that way.
this. Very much this.
So the top of the GitHub Octocat should be on the top and the bottom to the bottom, and vice and so on and so on. So again, I'm so grateful for the wonderful tornado across all these companies. And a lot, and it's not just the company and the experience, it's what's going on in your life. So when I was at Hired, that's when Julie and I decided to split up. And, we met when we were 23, very young, and totally different people. Still loved each other, still best friends, all these things, co-parenting, but it just wasn't right anymore. But trying to go through something like that when your, sons are 5 years old and you're commuting to the city every day as a chief people officer, and you're just trying to, it's insurmountable, the stress that can kind of take. And so that was a really hard time for me in the middle of that. And I still remember, I remember the first night that I actually left the house because, they stayed in the house where the boys were born and they're still there and it's wonderful. And I moved to an apartment for the time being, just kind of down the street. So it was 3 blocks away, but I still remember that was probably one of the worst days of my life. The first night you're not at home anymore. And doing that in addition to work and this and that. I mean, it's just a whole nother realm. And so that was kind of a low point for me, and just making that transition, which, every hard thing is a wonderful thing, which ended up being the best thing ever, because now we actually see each other more. And my wife, Hillary, and Julie and the kids, we're having dinner tonight. They're so happy. Like we call it the modern family, which is why it shoots up in there. And that stuff just doesn't happen. That took 6-7 years of working for that through ups and downs and turbulent times. And people are always telling me, "You're so lucky. How'd you do that?" I mean, it takes work and effort. I mean, now we're back to the beginning where it's loyalty and it's communication and it's a little bit of humor. It's a lot of responsibility. So these things kind of, they kind of carry throughout.
Yeah. How did you, going through some of those more turbulent times, that stressful time, like, how do you survive that? How do you come out the other side that with still this attitude of, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do well, I'm going to build relationships, like I'm going to keep fucking going?
Yeah. I think if someone had the answer to that, someone, have a lot of money,
bottle it up and sell it.
Yeah. Bundle it up and sell it. I just go back to the beginning of my journey line. That's just how we were raised. Like, you don't run away. You don't give up. And a lot of people did things for me and my family and personal and professional and friends that you learn that you don't take that and do the opposite. You stick through, and it wasn't always easy. I mean, we were seeing therapists. I had took some time off. Again, I'll go back to humor and perspective, like this too shall pass. And those things are very, very, very true. And just being honest about what that is and what's going on. And it's okay to like break down, And I forgot during this time, out of all of this, I forgot to put on there my dad died, and I got diagnosed with a thyroid cancer. If you remember at Hired, where I got my thyroid
No.
removed. So in a span of like 18 months, I moved out, I got divorced, my dad died, I had thyroid cancer. Like all that just happened like literally in 2017, 2018.
So like totally fine. Everything's fine. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
and it wasn't fine.
It was not.
But sometimes it's actually helpful to be like, you know what, everything's fine. And a couple years later, I dug into it and dissected a bit more. But sometimes in the moment, you just have to go through, and you need to be there for the people that need you most. But all that happened at once. It was insane.
Yeah. Just ride on top of the turbulent waters as far as you
Yeah,
can and deal with it later.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those were wild times. And still, like,
Those-
again, outside looking in, like, I don't think it really faltered your career. I don't think there was any cracks that were shown. Like, very much, if you were a duck, cool, calm, and collected on
yeah,
top of the water. So I think it's a great reminder that people can be going through wild things and still find time to, like, again, pour from that emotional cup, give to others. I don't know.
yeah,
That's how I survived turbulent times. So maybe that's what's resonating.
totally. But then the relationships, you build leading up to those really matter. I mean, those credits, right? I mean, Mayhole was the CEO at Hired at the time. He knew everything. I was like, listen, if we had not had a good relationship, if we had not built that trust or that transparency, that would have been really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to remind, like, lean on your coworkers in these times
Yes.
when you can, especially at that senior leadership level. I am huge on telling my very close teams, like, hey, this is my real life that's happening too. So bear with me.
Yes.
Um,
And I
and
love how like I think the pandemic helped accelerate that for people, right? All of a sudden there's no choice. Like babies are in the background screaming, like elderly parents, cats. I mean, you literally were living with these people, and work and personal just blended without choice. And I think it gave a lot of people permission to be themselves, to be honest. And what happens? Like human nature. If you're gonna be honest with me, okay, great. Now it's safe to be honest with you. And I think that just like multiplied like gremlins. And mental health, talking about these things, it's much, 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 much less taboo. And I'm so thankful for that.
yeah, I think it really pushed forward a lot of things that we've been striving for in our work for a long time, like psychologically safe spaces, prioritization for life outside of work while balancing still being a high performer, still achieving. Like, maybe we can't do it all, but we can do a lot more if we get flexible.
Absolutely.
So marriage number 2, modern family. Anything else to add there? I love your modern family. I'm
It's great.
fortunate. I'm friends with your wife on Instagram. Hi,
Yep.
Hillary.
Yeah.
I get little sneak peeks into your very cutesy, very demure life. I'm really loving it. How's the fam jam?
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, it's fun because Hillary's in real estate and doing totally different things, but it's like an interest that we share. So we have an Airbnb in Palm Springs, we manage that. We're looking at some other rental properties. It's kind of like doing hobbies together, and that's really fun having the time now to dig into that. No family's perfect. We have our stuff. We again, we laugh a lot in this family. It is underrated and trying to do so many different fun things. We got the kids scuba certified this summer. Just, there's more than one way to achieve. Like, you don't need to just achieve in work or finance or this or that. It's like, how can we kind of just enjoy this life as long as we have it, which I gained new perspective after my dad died suddenly at age 70, healthy. And I think that's really important because you see a lot of people in tech, especially that, they're ejecting out because it's just too much stress. They're having heart attacks. I mean, it's a big deal, and we have to figure out how to balance it. So the family's good, and just moving into like enjoying this chapter now that we have some more time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very much into finding more of a life flywheel effect where my work enhances my non-work life.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
And we're seeing it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like this younger generation, they are taking less money for more flexibility. They are accepting roles that, we probably wouldn't accept for mission based. I mean, for travel, for enjoying their life. I mean, recently we had, I think it was Dell, where they said, "Hey, we're back to work," right? And like, we don't want him. It's like, fine, you don't have to go back in the office, but you won't get promoted or you won't get any raises. They were like, great, great.
fine.
So I'm, I'm enjoying seeing kind of people putting their happiness and their mental health, just not more than necessarily, but at least on par with career. Because I didn't always do that back in the day. It definitely helped me. However, I think we can kind of live with both a little better.
Yeah, I think we're also going to see, shout out to Gen Z, a rise in like way more flexible work. I think this traditional full-time employee contractor is really going to have a lot more gray to it as we see folks taking on their own businesses or working independently and contracting, directing with companies. Which brings us to your next chapter, uh, giving up your CPO identity, going out a little bit on your own, expanding life
Yeah.
horizons. Let's talk about now and next.
Yeah, look, I think I've been feeling this for about a year and a half. I knew that the page had been turning, so to speak, as far as the chapter. I just didn't know, what the next chapter looked like. And back to how we started this conversation, I'm trying to like leave space that I don't know exactly what it's going to look like for like the first time since 2000.
Terrifying.
Just to kind of be like, listen, I don't know exactly what this looks like, and consciously not engaging in things that I might have 6 years ago, and then you end up at another company. And so what I'm like, what's happened just from, again, networks, from giving back, from working with people over the years, from the HR Heretics podcast, I've had people reach out and they're like, listen, can I just like meet with you? Can I have a safe space to talk through anything, whether it's a tactical project, some influencing challenges they're having in the company, some identity, kind of career crisis advice, coaching, mentoring, advisement. And I do that a lot now. I do that with 5 mid-level HR and business leaders, and I get so much energy from it because I love building great HR people. Right? We always said that, Kim. Like, I just want to build other great chief people officers because there's not enough. And I want, especially women leaders, female leaders, to feel confident, to feel equipped, to feel savvy and smart. And so I kind of work with folks on, like I mentioned earlier, today's job, you got to do well. Tomorrow's career, are you looking up and out and broadening your horizon and influence and networks and giving back? And then life goals, like they all go together. You can't really have one without the other. And thinking through that strategically and proactively and with power, which I don't think happens enough, So I don't really know, but I'm really enjoying that. And so I aching it to like, can I help other HR leaders become great and enjoy their own tornadoes? Can I help them? Can I Sherpa them through their own tornado path and make it a little bit easier for them to accelerate given what I've gone through?
It's funny. I feel like your tentacles spread far and wide. Like there is a weird kinship amongst people who have worked with Kelli Dragovich. Like even if we had never worked together, I always kind of feel like, oh, I know a little bit about
just call
you.
them. Like,
Yeah. Like, hey, Kelli? I know Kelli. Can I soundboard with you real quick?
Yeah. And I think that's also been a really important thing for me, Kim, is like even going back to my childhood and my friendships and those I choose to spend my time with outside of work. There's an authenticity there. There's a consistency to those people, right? There's a polarization to those people. Not everyone wants to hang out with my best friend. She's very polarizing, and you love her. And so with me, that's kind of the potency of that brand. And I think that's really important. I teach a lot of people. It's like, you don't need to be all things to all people, and you probably shouldn't. Right. And so when you go through the last 24 years in these different companies, again, if you call people from Intuit and Pendo, the two, the first and the last, they probably describe me similarly. And I think that's something, it's a good thing. And people change and develop and grow and this and that. However, when it comes to kind of the consistency of values, how you work, how you communicate, how you help people, how you connect with people, that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. I am so fortunate to have been able to stand in your light for a moment and really just learn
Now
so
we're
much.
standing in yours. We're standing in yours.
Yeah, it's a ring
It's
light
awesome.
to the side.
It's
No,
awesome.
truly, I'm excited about everything that you've got going on, about everything you've done for our industry, me personally. Where should people follow you? Where should they find you? Should they want to keep watching your journey?
Oh, you can reach me anywhere. My stuff's
LinkedIn,
all over LinkedIn. My email's there. You can
HR
we can
Heretics
book time, HR
podcast.
Heretics podcast, wherever. I am around. I love talking with and meeting new people. And this is great, Kim. I love the podcast. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for putting the seed in my brain for it. Anything we missed? Otherwise, we'll catch everyone next time.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Kelli. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.